and very distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the media. My pleasure and honor to welcome you to this important press briefing. It is to explain to the Ghanaian public, through you, the 2026 budget statement and financial policy and allocations to the Ministry of Education in our collective quest to support President Mahama in his research agenda on education, to expand and provide access to quality, equitable, inclusive education. The coincidence this afternoon is that we have been meeting as a ministry in the last 2 days with all our heads of agencies in a manner that we will reflect to deepen collaboration and partnership as we deliver on our mandate as a ministry, and to remind heads of institutions and agencies of your obligation to work together to provide for the quality, inclusive, equitable education. So I recognize Chief Executive Student Loan Trust. I recognize Director of Policy at the Ministry. And then to remind us that in the NDC manifesto, which won the elections for President Mahama in 2024, there are 107 distinct commitments in the manifesto relating to education. And these commitments are not just mere promises, but a social contract we have signed on with the people of Ghana. Therefore, we owe accountability to the Ghanaian people. I've always maintained and insisted that the sovereign is the people of Ghana, and they are the source of power, and it's for them into whom we exercise power. So we need to improve our delivery and performance. And I would like to highlight more importantly that going forward, all the manifesto commitments will be refined into performance agreements for all of you who are heads of institutions, so that we'll be measured. In education, we are now emphasizing data, evidence-based decision-making. And therefore, all the manifesto commitment will be refined into performance agreement. This will be signed between myself, heads of agencies. That will represent a significant shift of our intention to ensure and guarantee accountability to the Ghanaian people. Then, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I've had the privilege to engage heads of agencies under the ministry, as I have indicated. And today, you are aware that on Thursday, 13 November 2025, the Honorable Minister for Finance, the Honorable Atuforsen, on behalf of His Excellency the President of Ghana, and in accordance with Article 179 of the 1992 Constitution, presented the budget statement and economic policy to Parliament as mandated by our Constitution. And pursuant to the Public Financial Management Act, he made references to them. And then, knowing that there are uncertainties which will still characterize our economy and technological shifts, we still have to finance and ensure that we provide inclusive, high-quality education. And we build a solid education system under President Mahama's research. I'm here to provide clarity and insights into what this budget means for the education sector. I will share our key priorities, the strategic investments we are making, and how this aligns with our overarching commitment to research and transform Ghana's education landscape. The 2026 budget provides an opportunity to consolidate some gains we have made, accelerate some reforms, and allocate areas to where they are most needed. But I should start by saying that the requirement to finance Ghana's education system probably may be huger or huge, more huge, whichever words you choose, that the budget may be able to provide for us. We need more, but within the constraints of the budget, we can only share with you. If you look at the 2026 financial year, those of you who are familiar with the budget statement, you can go to page 183 and 184 in particular, where the appendix is shared. You will see an allocation of 39.2 billion to deliver our planned programs and interventions across basic, secondary, and tertiary education. Of it, 33.76 billion will come from the Government of Ghana funds. We expect 3.68 billion from internally generated funds and 1.8 billion from development partners through loans and grants. The allocation represents a 23% increase over the 2025 approved budget. It reflects the commitment of government to expanding access and improving quality from basic education to higher education or tertiary education, and to recognize that education holds a key to Ghana facilitating and guaranteeing sustainable, meaningful development for our country. The budget structure, don't forget, education remains Ghana's largest employer. So the Director General of GES is here. I understand that some striking teachers are looking for us on the streets of Accra. And then to respond to them, that Cabinet gave approval for us to recruit some 6,100 more teachers. And therefore, that category of teachers which belong to the 2023 cohort are adequately captured. I'll be surprised if it is the same group that is on the street. They rather should be looking for us and going back to offices for purpose of audit and identification to be restated to be paid. In addition to the allocation of 39.23 billion, the Ghana Education Fund has been allocated 9.9 billion, including 42 billion earmarked for free senior high school and free TVET infrastructure and services. I've heard some commentaries in the media that there is no allocation, no provision for free senior high school. That is not practically possible. If you recall, in the 2025 budget statement, and the budget is always done for and on behalf of the President of the Republic, which was his first budget, he indicated a major policy shift of financing free senior high school from the GET fund, and not as was the case since 2018 till 2024, when education, particularly free senior high school, was largely financed from petroleum revenue of the country, annual budget funding amount of ABFA. So the shift is that this time, GET fund will provide the financing for free senior high school. An amount of 42 billion has been allocated. When the GET fund formula gets to Parliament, you will see the actual numbers. This will provide for the feeding of students and also provide for the provision of free tertiary education for persons with disability, which we hope that the Student Loan Trust, together with the yet to be established Ghana Scholarship Authority, will collaborate to see to the disbursement of that. I'm praying that in the next couple of weeks, the President will assent to the bill if Parliament finishes its part of the work and sends the bill for presidential assent in accord with Article 106 of the Constitution. So there will still be free tertiary vocational education. And that's why I said that the financing allocation for the Ministry of Education and its agencies may not be sufficient, but at least adequate for now and adequate within the constraints of the budget. Don't forget, and ladies and gentlemen of the media, a few of you are here. I still recall before 2025, one of the most nagging questions the media asked the NDC and President Mahama was, show us one social intervention policy of your government. We have sufficiently and adequately provided and answered the Ghanaian public. I have identified three. Those of you who are more intellectual than me can add the additional ones. Mahama Cares is a social intervention policy. No fee stress is a social intervention policy. Free education for persons with disability is a social intervention policy. And therefore, our critics, you are now naysayers because we have answered you and answered you adequately. That under President Mahamad's research agenda, we have responded adequately, and he would leave that as an enduring legacy of the Mahama presidency. And no academic fees policy for all first-year students. You would note that some 537.4 million has been allocated for that purpose, representing 7.6% from what was allocated in 2025. And many of the students are grateful for that intervention, and that takes a burden off parents and students. And for President Mahama and the Ministry of Education, no child should be left behind because the person is financially disadvantaged. And therefore, we have also expanded the remit of the student loan trust into the +1 they have. Even students of Ghana School of Law who hitherto did not benefit from it, we've expanded it for them to benefit. So in total, 4.2 billion has been dedicated to sustaining and improving the free senior high school and free TVET program. This investment will ensure that every Ghanaian child, regardless of background, has access to secondary education. We will do everything possible. Last year, it was 3.5 billion in the 2025 budget. So from 4.2 billion is an appreciable increase. Part of the crisis in free senior high school is infrastructure. The lack of, or call it inadequate, classroom, dormitories, laboratories, ICT centers to turn them digital, would embark on one of the most ambitious education infrastructure programs. So that explains what the Minister of Finance explained, that there will be 200 kindergarten blocks, 200 primary schools, and 200 junior high schools, and then 400 teacher bungalows, and 400 modern sanitary facilities. I may just want to emphasize one of it, the junior high school concept. Many of you, those of you who are privileged to have been born urban and live in urban areas, your story may not be the same as mine. In rural areas, there are some communities where children have to walk a mile, sometimes up to 2, in order to be able to access junior high school education. And in many instances, we have 12 to 13 communities that combine to be able to have access to a junior high school. The intervention of the 200 junior high school is to resolve and respond to the need across the country. So we will do that. And then on teachers' bungalow, as you recall in the manifesto, we promised Teacher Dabre. It was one of President Mahamad's flagship pledges to the Ghanaian people. I'm currently reviewing a paper and a proposal from the District Assembly Common Fund. And District Assembly Common Fund, GET Fund, GSOP, the pension fund of the teachers, and the teachers union, we intend to embark on a provision of 50,000 housing units for teachers under that effort. The administrator of the District Assembly Common Fund was in Morocco a while ago, a few weeks ago, to engage with some of the partners. What we need is to identify what the funding mechanism will be for the delivery of it. Then to emphasize that it is not the wish of President Mahama that any new education infrastructure is built without sanitary facilities, particularly changing room for girls. Director General GS, so a must that when your procurement unit is undertaking any procurement of a classroom and a dormitory, it's important that the sanitary facilities are attached to them. Currently across the country, we have unsatisfactory state of many of those sanitary facilities. We are talking to some donors to see how we get that done. A significant intervention to end the double track phenomena. You remember double track? Those of you who said red, gold, green. This one, not for traffic lights purposes, but for us in education, it necessarily and avoidably contributed to low quality of education, because the number of part-time hours spent between students and teachers was affected by the double track. Many of the school girls and boys spend more time at home and less time in school. We can respond to it through expanded infrastructure, through a digital provision, and we are happy to announce a new flagship program known as the Ghana Secondary Learning Improvement Program, a 2-year World Bank supported project valued at $180 million. The World Bank team is in town. They are doing this assessment across the country, and they would also even further support some of the e-block initiative that was started and not completed. So be assured that we would come back to you. In 2026, a total of 1.1 billion has been allocated under the Ghana Secondary Education Learning Improvement Program to execute infrastructure expansion and, more importantly, quality improvement, which is about teachers. I have maintained all the time that the quality of a student is a function of a good teacher, and therefore we need to boost their morale, work to improve their conditions of service with Teacher Dabre. I know for many teachers, improved conditions of service meant that I should increase basic salary tomorrow, and then they'll be able to smile at government. So we will expand, and let me give you the background to it. We would expand a number of Category A schools, and we intend to expand 10 Category B schools to A and 10 Category C schools to B, and then expand some areas. And then to many of the schools that may be listening to me, on my way here, I have added Mankrasu Senior High School based on their performance at the National Maths and Science Quiz. My heart is warmed to reach out to them to know that the country appreciates that, given the deprivation, they have demonstrated excellence and academic pursuit. So I'm still monitoring. There's also a school in the Eastern Region, Kade, where their student became a best science student, yet they have no science laboratory. I'll reward them with a laboratory into next year. We intend under the $180 million to complete 30 community day senior high schools, what is referred to as the E-block. So I recognize that the Director General of GTEC is in. When I get to teacher education, I'll come to you and see what we're able to do together. And then for higher education, we want to establish 2 new technical universities in Jasikan, Techima, and Damongo. But now Damongo is getting the University of Science and Technology in Damongo. So I may have to take a decision, but in consultation with the president. Originally, the thought was to situate a technical university in Damongo. So now that they have a science and technology university, maybe I'll shift focus to do Jasikan and Techima and still give Damongo the science and technology university in order to get equity. But because the remit of a technical university is different from a science and technology university, I want all 3 to take off. I met with the contractors this morning. Once they get guarantees from Get Fund, they may be able to get them going simultaneously. So Techima, Jasikan, and Techima will benefit from that. And then we will begin the process to create 2 new public universities in Kintampo. And now I'm looking at Achirenswa in the Ahafo region, so that at least the president desired that every region has a dedicated institution of higher learning would have been answered. We'll send a team shortly to do a need assessment of Achirenswa. It may include Kenyasi, depending upon their relationship with UNER. We expect that next year, the University of Engineering and Agricultural Sciences at Bunsu will take off with some satellite universities in other parts of the country. In addition to this reform, we want to promote literacy and then reading culture. So for emphasis, if you take the Get Fund formula, I've been in Parliament in the last 21 years or 20 years, I'm told. You see that in Get Fund allocations, we leave out, for instance, an account which is required by law for persons with special needs, Ghana Library Authority, and then distance learning. I intend to correct that in the formula and ensure that these 3 components becomes an integral part of every Get Fund formula presented to Parliament, so that every year Ghana Library Authority is assured of a minimum allocation which will allow them to do the Sunyani library for the Omahini of Sunyani, his people, or in Eastern region or in Bolgatanga where they have none, or even in the Central or Western region. Then also, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press, I have a duty to work with you. Ghana's reading culture is at, if I say all-time low, they will quote me tomorrow and say Haruna says reading culture is at all-time low. So our reading culture is not the best, and all of us have to encourage and get the culture of reading enhanced, and we can do so. Those of you who are parents, guide the little ones to love to read, love to learn, and that is the best way they can enrich their knowledge and they become strong person. So we intend to improve the digital library architecture of the country and extend learning resources to every part of the country. Now, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to what may be the best news in the 2026 budget for President Mahama and for the Ghanaian people. I visited the Akwapim Akropong School for the Blind, as well as several other special and inclusive schools. What I witnessed there, I recognize Professor Chia of GTech has just joined us. Prof, I recognize you, Prof Mahama. So I'm now on special education, and I have submitted a comprehensive policy paper to Cabinet to look at the possibility of introducing free education for all learners in special and integrated schools across the country. I intend that if I get the support of the President and Cabinet, for which I trust I have, from 1st January 2026, we should be able to provide for the needs of all learners with special needs in our country, including the provision of devices for persons who are visually impaired, those with hearing difficulties, and others. What I noticed as I went to Akropong was that even feeding, they still depended on government grants. That is not good enough. So we extend school feeding to all the special needs and integrated schools in the country. And for me, that will be the best intervention of meeting the needs of distressed, marginalized learners in the provision of our educational system. Accordingly, I've requested and directed Get Fund to make a minimum allocation of 65 million Ghana cedis to support the initiative of supporting all learners with special needs. So again, ladies and gentlemen of the media, don't say I didn't see this in the budget. You see it in the Get Fund formula. What the President have done, for which I've committed my signature, is that Get Fund will now essentially be responsible for the financing of free senior high school, free education, free tertiary education for all persons with disability, and free education for persons with special needs. All we are doing is to offload the financing of that from the consolidated fund into the Ghana Education Trust Fund. The law anticipated that even in its original proposition and thought as an act. So our budget this year is bold and strategic, and we think that is forward looking. I should end once again by referring you to page 183, 184 of the budget statement. And ladies and gentlemen of the media, I should be concluding so that I can take a few questions or remarks. But let the questions stay to budget. How I'm going to finance free senior high school, how President Mahama and the NDC will honor the pledge to the Ghanaian people. And for many of you, as I've emphasized, for free senior high school, many of the institutions have doubled their intake from maybe 1,400 to 4,400, but still living with the same infrastructure. So the Ghana Education Service deserves all our support in terms of budgetary allocation beyond salaries, in order that they will respond to the infrastructure needs of our schools. So let me pause here, and to those of you, I won't say men of little faith, have confidence and trust in President Mahama. 2025 was the beginning of his reset initiative, which primarily focused on correcting the wrongs in the management of the economy before the period 2025. And I'm sure the focus into 2026 will be to consolidate the gains, made in 2025 in the management of the economy. And without any fear of contradiction, President Mahama is managing the economy better than Nana Addo Dankwa as president. In terms of debt management, we have demonstrated superior management of debt. If you doubt me, go to President Akufo-Addo's own speech at the Brussels conference, when he said that one of his regrets is submitting Ghana to a debt exchange. We are not out of the woods of his debt exchange yet. It's diluted the value of people's earnings, it's diluted the value of people's pension, and the currency is at least stable. Those of you who followed me as minority leader, I used to say epileptic fall of the city. Now the epilepsy is seasoned and is getting better. The trust is for us to sustain inflation, which is at single digit, and also not have the appetite to want to borrow, and also lead the country to what Nana Addo Dankwa have regretted. So we have to manage our appetite for debt, and it means we must manage our appetite for borrowing. It is my conviction that into 2026, President Mahama will focus primarily on resetting Ghana with his governance agenda of leading the process for constitutional, administrative, and legal reforms of the country, so that we can serve the country better. He has no opportunity than the sizable majority or extraordinary majority in Parliament to lead the reforms. And I promise you, he will lead the reforms, resetting our governance processes, legal, administrative, and constitutional. And I want to call it here and then hear your questions. So the Ministry of Education, in terms of budgetary allocation, comparatively, every country must focus on human resource development, and every country must invest in human capital development if it's to attain SDG 4. And this government, and my priority has been to invest more in foundational learning and basic education. There's a paradox, and that paradox is informed by what we inherited from the free senior high school. You cannot be allocating 4.2 billion for free senior high school. Then when basic education get less of 1 billion, you say we are not doing good enough. That is a paradox I'm explaining, and I do believe that additional funding may be required. And then I've had some few questions about TVET into 2027. Last year we announced in the budget a TVET fund. Some 100 million Ghana cedis was allocated for TVET. I met with our donors today, including KFW, and we are thinking that if we are able to honor some of our TVET obligations in terms of counterpart funding from that 100 million, we should be able to unlock some 45 million euro to support technical and vocational education. It is my strong conviction that the best way to address the growing youth unemployment and underemployment is to address the employability question, and that can only be addressed with increased investment in technical and vocational education. I thank you all, and I'm happy to take a few questions. God bless. Oh, 5. Larry is asking how many questions. As many as you have, provided it's tied to budget. If you won't go and bring extraneous matters and it's about budget, I'm happy to answer you.
Thank you very much, Honorable. So we'll take the very first. Anna, please can mention your name, your media house, and then your question.
Okay.
And then please, as the Honorable Minister indicated, please let's stick to his presentation for today. Thank you.
Larry, the name is Hanan, not Anan. And my Hanan is not Abdul Wahab, it's Adam. Minister, my name is Abdul Hanan Adam. I work with the EIB GH1T and Star FM. Minister, yesterday during the debate, the minority raised questions about the fact that the teacher Dabre was one of the major campaign promises of the John Dramani Mahama-led administration. Unfortunately, the minority is disappointed that that was not captured in the 2026 budget. Could you kindly provide answers to that effect? Minister, secondly, I just want to find out the 1.1 million that has been allocated to the Ghana Secondary Learning Improvement Program.
1.1 billion. You are
billion.
correcting your name, so correct the figures.
1.1 billion for the Ghana Secondary Learning Improvement Program. Is it for the entire country, and is it limited to only 2026 or for the entire 4-year period of His Excellency the President?
Thank you very much.
To answer the second part, it will be for 3 years. As I said, we are getting $180 million from the World Bank to finance that. And then Teacher Dabre, when the Honorable Atufosi mentioned 400 teachers bungalows, that's part of the Teacher Dabre initiative. And as I said, we've even taken it to a higher level. Now it's going to be a collaboration between Get Fund, Common Fund, the teacher unions, then we provide 50,000 housing units. In fact, as I'm speaking to you, I'm reviewing a policy recommendation from the administrator of the Common Fund, Harry Yamson. Once I review it, we'll get a technical committee to do the feasibility, and then we'll see. I'll lead it with the Honorable Minister for Local Government to Cabinet, and then we get it going. So we'll upscale it. What we need is for the teachers to agree to counterpart government to deal with it. So there was provision for it.
The next question, please.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Honorable Minister. My name is Brembe. I work with Ministry of Education, Official TV Channel, MOE. First of all, let me say you've started very well. Thank you very much. And let me also restore Dr. Engineer, Director General TVET. He has a listening ear. My question has to do with, sorry, you mentioned Mancranso. I also completed Mancranso Senior High. So on behalf of the school, although I'm not part of the management, but let me say thank you for your patience. I completed the 2012. My question has to do with teaching and non-teaching recruitment. It's something people keep asking me. I was once a teacher presec, so when it comes to teaching or teacher matter, I have interest in that. So that's my question. But you started very well, Honorable Minister. Thank you.
So the recruitment will cover both teaching and non-teaching. Currently, we have 6,100. An additional requests have been made. The President has constituted a sub-cabinet committee to make recommendations to the Minister for Finance. Mankrasu, thank you for those words. MOE TV, we intend to request the National Communication Authority to add you an FM station in addition. And yesterday when we met here after the Senlos presentation, I'm happy to share this public. And this is President Mohammed's own observation. He was saying that it's not possible through a digital system that if we have the best mathematics or physics teacher, maybe in Adisadal or in Fansipim, that on a Sunday, he provides lectures digitally to every Ghanaian child who wants to benefit from that physics or mathematics learning. So we'll be increasing and making provision for Senlos in our budget. As I said, the distance learning leg of it, so that we'll retool you to be able to do that. So that once in a week, you know, one of the things, it will be by the fireside kind of learning, play-based learning, that we encourage brilliant teachers across the country. The best teacher may be in Sefi, but a student in Wa or Nadole may benefit from that lecture if we make best use of MOE TV. So MOE TV, don't focus too much on ministers' press conferences. Go back to content, and content of what teachers and learners will desire to do. Thank you. Larry, the next question.
Thank you very much, Honorable. The next question, please.
My name is Malfiti Faida, sorry, I work for GTV. Honorable, I would like to know 207 million cedis allocated for teacher training allowances. We see the constant striking teachers. How are you going to ensure that in the 4-year term of John Mahama's administration, you stem the tide of this with the implementation of the allowances, and what happens to them when they leave school? And also with teachers and the ratio for rural students, how you're going to ensure that also is implemented, overseeing the agencies that you oversee. The other one is the scholarships that have been fraught with a lot of corruption from the erstwhile Akufo-Addo administration. How are you going to ensure that this time around it works for the vulnerable people, the right people get the scholarships?
Thank you very much. The Ghana Scholarship Authority Bill has just been passed by Parliament. It will be submitted to President Mahama for his assent. Once the assent is done, we will set up the bureaucracy of the Ghana Scholarship Authority, which will include the appointment of the board. There is already a registrar, Director General there, and other complementary staff in accord with Article 195 of the Constitution. The bill, as I articulated, was to deal with chronism, corruption associated with the award of scholarship. Now we expect that only 3 categories of persons will benefit from scholarship: brilliant, needy, national development needs in terms of manpower, and where necessary to promote international cooperation. Other than that, I wouldn't encourage any politician to go and get a scholarship. Yesterday you heard me talking to MPs that it's not meant for members of parliament, and it's not meant for that category of person. That is not what we envisage in it. The country, for instance, may decide that in the next 5-10 years, we need to train young people in artificial intelligence. Let's send 10 people abroad to learn it and come to Ghana. Because in 5-10 years, that will be what will shape the way we learn, the way we teach, and the way we carry on even our lives. So you may need intervention in that area. You may want to associate it with, if somebody wants to come and learn our culture, he wants to go and learn the Adwa dance of the Asante people or the Bamaya dance, it should be possible for us to support him in order that he has an understanding of the cultural. So when I say this, I mean every other culture. Any other person can come and want to learn about the one people. He should be able to do that. The other one was money allocation. So I'll take the next question, Larry.
Minister, I am the Minister from Private Pedagogy. I want to commend you for the construction of the 200 classroom blocks that you want.
We haven't done it yet. So
yes, so because I'm a product of a rural school, I am even coming to make an appeal that in Ghana we have over 12,000 primary schools and over 6,000 junior high schools. So if you look at the ratio, it's even half of the primary schools are not getting a corresponding junior high school, so they have to walk
absolutely
very far distance. 200, I think, is not enough to bridge the gap between the junior high schools and the primary schools. So if you can make sure that the get fund calculation will also make provision so that you add to the fund 200 that to the building. So we get rid of some of the dilapidated schools in the rural areas, aside building new ones at the urban centers. And then, Minister, last one, the Mankranso upgrade that you talked about. Mankranso is currently in category C. Are you going to upgrade them to B or A?
with quality improvement, that question will be answered. Mine will be to provide the basic infrastructure, then facilitate quality improvement. But I think that with support, they can do better. I see this as a popular initiative. We are saying that we'll convert a number of category C schools to B, B to A, and expand the A. I mean, if you notice, when I visited Presec, all they are asking for is an additional dormitory and classroom, and maybe a laboratory, a science laboratory with infrastructure with quality improvement. Then they can take more. Achimota School can do better if we expanded their infrastructure, and Fansipim Adisada can do better. So, but for purpose of equity, that's why I'm saying that from C to B, B to A, then expand A. We'll do exactly that when the resources are made available to us.
Yes, sir. My question was on the allowances, the training allowances.
Yeah, teacher training allowances. I'm also preparing a cabinet paper on that. You cannot elevate teacher training colleges to university and still expect to treat them as different. But Ghana still has a deficit or shortage of teachers, particularly in rural Ghana. And we are exploring another opportunity using the Ghana Student Loan Trust to reach out to that category. I mean, how much is the allowance? 400 Ghana cedis. They could come get 5,000-10,000 from Student Loan Trust, and they'll be better off. So we are engaging them, and we'll continue to engage them. But they should not expect that when we elevate them into full university status, circumstances and policy decisions will not change. But I see Professor Jinapo, I see Council Chairman Professor Mahama. I'm requested that you may have to review your numbers for teacher intake. Just before we entered, my Director of Policy drew my attention that there's been a significant reduction in the number of college students admitted. So, Professor, Chairman, I'll come back to you and the Director General of GTEC. You have to. Since the numbers are left to you, mine is to make the policy appeal through your chairman. So the teacher training college, adjust them upward, do an upward review of the allocations for them. Ghana still needs teachers, particularly in rural areas. I'll take another batch of questions and then we call it quits. Last two.
So we'll pick the last two questions. If not.
So God bless us all. Thank you. Okay. Let him finish here.
Mr. Minister,
now, who name say me teach you? I don't know. Who name say me chino? Yeah, now over bisa question, I bisa no.
I want to ask a question.
Oh no, I'm teasing you. Go ahead and cheat. Go ahead.
The question is, who can senior high school the same way? But maybe Michael Martin commission for TVET. Sometimes over TVET schools need equipment that school Balano need for training. Not a big new crowd. Intimacy say Ufa wedding in share schools need. School be war Kagadi. Ukoha no tools. Students no use at the of learning. Intimacy say Ufa budget maybe and call the rural technical schools. That's it.
Obisa, Dr. Erica, any senior Zachariah, and no, me friend, I'm going to bring a budget for retooling and re-equipping of TVET institutions. Eric, which is 40 million budget by 40-50 million. Zachariah, the 60 million. But I'm saying my first can be accord to your counterpart fund of about 20-30 million. And TNCBA equipping retooling TVET institutions across the country. And then Namaka said, the 2.5% of oil revenue now dedicated to AMA TVET fund. Now last year 2025, we allocated 100 million Ghana cedis for the TVET fund. 2027 it will be done and done properly. Intimidasi. So on that note, the conference is over. God bless you.
Right, so thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We are most grateful for your presence. Colleagues of the media, we are grateful that you honored our invitation and you came. To the Chief Director, to the Director General, to the heads of agencies under the Ministry of Education, to all our